You face battles most never fought, pain, struggle, adversity. But here, we use that as fuel. This is the Battle Harder podcast, where we motivate, educate, and inspire warriors of life, veterans, survivors, leaders. We share stories and strategies to turn pain into progress. Here's your host, Coach Rob. Let's lock in and battle harder.
What's up, guys? This is Coach Rob with the Battle Harder podcast, where I hope to motivate, educate, and inspire you to become the best version of yourself. Today's episode, we're talking with a special guest. Essentially, we've already become brothers in arms, so to speak, and that's why we're doing this episode, with it being Men's Mental Health Month. And I'd like to preface that with every day should be men's mental health while we're talking about physical, emotional, spiritual, mental. Your health is important. It's something that you need to look at and tackle each and every day. And we're going to tackle that conversation right now with my guest, Mike Morgan, who is the host of his podcast and owner of the Resilient Warrior Nation. So, Mike, if you jump on camera for me.
Absolutely. What's up, brother? How are you?
I'm great, and I'm happy that I have a tough guy, so to speak, to speak with today. And this is going to be a good podcast, guys, because I think in society we'd both be considered like tough guys, but we have a different definition nowadays of what tough guys actually is and means. So, Mike, before we get started, just a little background of who you are and what you currently do.
Yeah, absolutely. I am a medically retired 30-year police officer. I worked in the Atlanta Police Department as well as Suffolk County Police Department. Did my last 19 there, and blew out my back, was medically retired in October of 22. So since I retired, I started experiencing some feelings of depression, anger, just general unhappiness, general unease. Wasn't really sure what was going on. And then I sat down to watch a Sean Ryan podcast episode in spring of 23, as he interviewed a man named Eddie Penny, a former Navy SEAL, who recounted the story of the Exhaustion 17 incident in which a Chinook was shot down in Afghanistan, killing all 38 souls aboard, including 17 SEALs. It was the biggest loss community in one incident. He was speaking about losing his best friend, Jason Workman, and him escorting Jason's body back to his hometown. As he retold the story, he was visibly upset, rightly so, and I simultaneously began thinking about a call I had 5 years before about a 2-year-old found floating in a pool. A beautiful little girl named Dana Sikorsky. She survived, but the outlook was grim at best at the time, and I buried that call. And as I'm thinking about Dana, I just lost it, basically. No other better way to say it. I just started crying like a baby, and basically instantaneously realized that I had some sort of PTSD and knew that I had to heal from it. I did not want to live with that the rest of my life. Knew I needed help. Decided that psychedelics was the route I was going to take, and essentially transformed my life last March 1st, the weekend went to drink at a facility now defunct, but it was called Soul Quest Ayahuasca Church in Orlando, Florida. My wife and I went down, changed my life, and it became clear after that weekend my purpose in life was to help other vets and first responders heal from their from their various traumas, including PTSD. I created my podcast to do for others what Sean Ryan did for me, and I'm entering the public speaking arena shortly, where I want to reach and hopefully help as many as I can, like you're doing.
And that's why we're here, and that's, it's kind of crazy that guys like us who had, tough backgrounds, tough jobs, saw some, bad shit, and we were lucky to overcome that and come on the other side. And almost automatically, the one thing I like about the first responder veteran community, when you meet somebody, it doesn't matter what branch, what department, what they did, you automatically become a brother. You automatically, hey, I got your six. If you need me, I'm here for you. Now, the problem with that is actually getting people to talk about their trauma and their issues. So when you got out, was it just the fact that you weren't in law enforcement anymore that it really started to give you that feel of, I don't know what to do, what's next, and kind of lead you to that path of finding out that maybe something was wrong with you before the podcast episode?
Yeah, great question, Rob. I think there were several dynamics at play. One was I was no longer this thing I was for 30 years. 2, I'm no longer part of this thing, this brotherhood I was for 30 years. 3, I had gotten injured September of 20. I got retired October of 22, and then I had to go another year for my workers' comp case. So it was essentially 3 years of not being able to work, not being able to volunteer, not being able to go to the gym. I built one in my basement, so I was able to do that, but I had no purpose, so that was part of it as well. And I had never processed the traumas that I experienced in my 30 years as a police officer either. That was a huge part of it. Um, I think that my PTSD, and there's many misconceptions about PTSD and its causes, and including to myself, I did not realize that me being in the midst of other people's most devastatingly intimate moments was cause for PTSD. I cannot begin to estimate how many traumatic scenes, so to speak, I've been to in my career, and to see other people's lives change before my eyes with the death or serious injury or serious consequence to a loved one. And it happened over and over and over and over. And you just kind of bury them.
Yeah.
And even though it's not my trauma per se, I'm in the midst of someone else's, and it's heartbreaking. And you can't deal with it, man. You can't take on all this pain. So we call it compartmentalize. Be bury, 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 and eventually that jack in the box is opening, man. And when it does, it's not going to be pretty when everything comes out.
Yeah, and most, for my civilian community that may not be aware, most of us police officers, we're very empathetic. We're fathers, we're husbands, we're mothers, we're wives, brothers, sisters. And when we go to a scene, most cops aren't like, I'm a police officer, do what I say, shut the fuck up. No, we have emotions, and we carry a pride and professionalism so we can get through the dark times, and we can get through that pain and deal with it. But the problem is when we leave the scene, we don't talk to anybody about it. We don't, and most of us don't go talk to our significant others about it because we don't want to involve them in the horror and the trauma. And that sucks because now you're I can't even say it. We're keeping everything tight and tucked in and just like, oh, I'll just deal with it later. But then when later comes, that's when you blow up and you have an episode, or you get in trouble or do something out of the realms of normal. And you're like, why am I doing this? That, what's wrong with me? So you bring up a very valid point, and I just want the civilian community to know that we're not robots. We're not killing machines. We're humans. We feel, we hurt, we feel pain, emotion, sadness. My second day on the job back in Florida State Police Department, young man killed himself, and I can't get his face out of my head. I see it all the time. And it pops up at the most inconvenient random moments. And there are certain things that I can't watch on TV or see because it brings up survivor's guilt or some sort of issue that makes me not necessarily go into like a dark mode, but it makes you feel some kind of way. And everybody's trauma is different. What Mike dealt with, what I've dealt with, we've all dealt with different things, but the similarity is that we can overcome it and we can get through it through various things. And for you, essentially, that was ayahuasca. So give us a little, breakdown. What made you choose that? Kind of what was the ceremony like? And if you want to share essentially somewhat of like, if you want to keep your vision quest or your trip or whatever you want to call it secret, that's fine. But if you can kind of hint on what you saw or felt or the emotions that came over you when you did this, I'd like to kind of highlight that.
Yeah, sure. No, I'm an open book. I'll discuss it. I'll readily discuss it because I know a lot of guys and girls who are listening have questions because it's something that they've never been exposed to. As far as familiarity, mine became as a result of watching the Sean Ryan show again. I saw a bunch of special force operators coming back from war, and they were telling Sean their stories. And, these are some of the strongest men in the world, mentally, fortitude-wise, and they're all coming back broken men from war. But they're all subsequently healing from these plant-based medicine modalities. And at first I was a little pessimistic. It just seemed a little, hippie-ish to me, so to speak. Here I'm an alpha male. I don't need that shit. Not into drugs, which it is not a drug. I hate when people refer to it as such. You're never getting a euphoric feeling from any of these things. It's not something that is fun to experience, as you're going through it. So, hopefully people realize that they've been used for thousands of years it started out in South America and they've been used by tribes for thousands of years to successfully help the tribes people. And now that we're finding these modalities could be useful, I want to spread the factual information about them as opposed to what people think they may be. And going back to watching Sean Ryan, so when I realized I needed help, I didn't think that some traditional therapy was going to be good for my healing. I don't think I was going to talk to a man or woman behind a desk, tell them what I've done, what I've seen, and they were going to be able to help me. So again, I paid closer attention and listened even harder to these guys describe what they were going through. And, finally had it set in my mind that my wife and I were going to go to Peru because I didn't realize that these treatments are accessible in the U.S. And when we moved to Florida in December of 23, my wife had found this facility that I just spoken about in Orlando. So we decided, yeah, my wife is definitely up for it. And everyone's got traumatic experiences that they've gone through in life. It's
Right.
not just first responders and vets that have cornered this market on trauma and PTSD.
Right.
So it can be utilized by anyone. And that was it. We went last March 1st, the weekend of. We sat for 3 ceremonies: Friday night, Saturday night. My life was essentially changed after that first Friday night's ceremony. Prior to drinking that weekend, 2 former coworkers and friends had committed suicide 3 weeks before, a week apart from my Suffolk County police job. Sergeant had actually killed himself in a precinct locker room. And I never had any intention of kind of being in the space that I'm in. If you would have told me, what is it now, 14 months ago, 15 months ago, that I'd be doing what I'm doing, I would have told you you're nuts. But literally, as I'm coming out of that first journey, the universe and I were kind of having a conversation. The universe was like, I healed you. Your pursuit from here on is to go help others. And I accepted out loud. I just said, okay. And as far as the ceremony itself, first off, ayahuasca is made from 2 vines that are found in the Amazon, and there are 80,000 vines in the Amazon. The fact that someone was told or did it on their own when they first did it to put these 2 together, because one creates these psychedelic effects and the other is an MAO inhibitor. And if you didn't use them in unison, they would essentially be inert. Tells me all I need to know about, whether some higher power wanted us to use them, because you can't tell me that this is not orchestrated from above. But, essentially you boil these vines, and the juice that comes out of it is the ayahuasca that you drink. You filter out the impurities, but it's essentially served in like a shot glass. And, they're very sacred ceremonies, and I treat the medicine as sacred.
Right.
It's not something you just do on a Friday night with your buddies. Right. Like, there is serious intentions that go into this. Right. I really thought about what I wanted to achieve, what I wanted to heal from. And although I did, they always tell you that the medicine doesn't give you what you think you need. It gives, what you want. It gives you what you need.
Right.
So I got what I needed. We drank it. It took about 45 minutes for the effects to start kicking in. I saw the ground start moving, and I'm like, here we go. And essentially for me, it was almost like I was looking at a big screen TV. And they call the presence that you feel by most people Mother Ayahuasca, or Mother, because it's usually a female presence that most people sense, including me. And she was kind of in the left-hand window of this screen that I was watching. And I remember I just kind of put my hands up in the air, and I was like, I need help. I'm like, I need help with this rage, with this anger. And, I was crying. I'm like, I need to release all this shit. And every time I asked for something, it was just like it was granted. And me and my father had a horrible relationship our entire lives. He's since deceased. And I was asking, if she could kind of help me with that. And she was actually bringing him to me in my journey. And he never showed up. And I remember saying out loud, coward. I knew he couldn't talk about his feelings. But everything between he and I was also released. Like that emotional charge that I used to have affixed to memories is no longer there. So when I think about things between he and I, it is. It's no longer like this painful thing that I think about is this thing that stokes anger in me. And it was just things granted one after the other. And I left that ceremony just feeling like a changed man. I just had more love in my heart, more empathy for people. I remember watching the volunteers as the ceremony was going on, and I was like, I want to be more like these people. Like they were just there to help us with anything we needed, and the grace and the love that they were showing towards us. I'm like, that's the kind of man I want to be. It's funny when I tell this to my wife. It's like, you sound like you were a monster beforehand. I'm like, no, I'm not. I don't feel like I was. Maybe I just wanted more empathy and more, kind of more love in my heart. And I
Yeah,
was
I
granted
mean,
that.
you know, being in the military, being a police officer, being a firefighter, anything in a tough profession, I mean, it makes you harder regardless. You either have two options usually. Either you get out of the job and realize that this isn't for me, or you continue on and just fight and fight and fight and fight and fight day in and day out because you don't know what else to do. And at the time for me, when I got out of the military, I went and became a police officer. And then after I lost my business, I went and became a police officer because I was like, the only thing I thought I was good at, right? I'm like, this is what I'm good at. This is what I know how to do. Not realizing that the trauma, the mental health issues, the stigma about you're not allowed to talk about your problems, just realizing statistically that especially police officers seem like they're killing themselves more than veterans these days. The divorce rate is high as fuck, and it's just insane. There's no camaraderie on the end of making sure we're okay, and I don't understand that because we have this brotherhood, this sisterhood where we would literally give our lives for our partner or for our sergeant or whatever. But then when we have mental health issues, it's like, get away from me, don't talk to me, like you're crazy, like. And that's not the right answer. And I think, hopefully between me and you and a bunch of other like-minded individuals will change that. And it's going to take a lot of time, and it may not even be done by the time we're, gone off this earth. What, if you don't mind talking about, like, what did anger look like for you or to you before all this happened? Like, what was some of the symptoms that showed in your life where you're like, man, I can't act this way anymore?
I remember a specific incident in the gym where I asked someone, I think I asked them if they were done with a bench, something to that effect. And they just gave me this wise ass answer back. And I literally thought, am I going to hit him with a chop or am I going to hit him with a straight fist and break his nose? Like literally, that was my thought. I'm like, is a chop or a punch? And I was just going to break this guy's grape. And I'm like, yo, man, this is like out of control. I mean, I trained for years, so I'm very comfortable with extreme violence, but I've never gotten in a fight off duty. So it's not like I've been this dick, like, getting into fights and losing my temper. So I was like, I was almost kind of I was taken aback, to be honest with you. Like, damn, man, I was ready to go. And I'm like, you need to fucking chill. And, that was one thing. Or I'll be talking to my wife and maybe give like a nasty reply or a cross word. It wasn't like things were bad between us, but, it was just a dick. Like I'd say something not nice. And I'm like, why'd you just do that? You didn't have to say it like that. She never treats you like that. Like, what's your problem? And it was almost like I couldn't control it. Again, it was never that bad. It wasn't like I was screaming and cursing my wife or anything like that, but just like a nasty snide comment when it wasn't needed. I love my wife. She's the best. I've been divorced myself. It's fucking cliche, unfortunately. But, I appreciate the marriage that I have now. So I did not want to be treating her like I was doing periodically. And, just I wasn't feeling myself, put it that way. I wasn't waking up feeling happy.
Yeah, I think, before we even acknowledge that we have mental health issues, and obviously for anybody listening, like, if you guys feel off and you think something's wrong, like, lean into that and figure out what's wrong. Don't just say, oh, nothing's wrong and continue going through life, because you're going to have a longer period of time where you're just freaking miserable all the time. And, I was married for 18 years, and I've probably said this on every podcast now. I take 60% of the blame for that marriage ending. Now, I don't think at the end of the day she was the right fit for me, and the woman I'm with now is just like amazing and a beautiful, wonderful thing. But as Mike said, when I got with my new wife, I had to decide, am I going to continue down the same path and just be an asshole? And it wasn't same thing. Like, I would come home and maybe the dishes weren't done, and I didn't want to do them, so I'd give a snide remark as well. I'd be a smart ass and be like, really? I worked all day, you couldn't do the dishes? Or, why is the house always a mess? Why are you not helping me? Everything was me having guilt against her, but it's not that she wasn't helping me or she wasn't trying to be there. I just was so angry and upset and frustrated all the time, and I didn't know how to process that. And even as guys like us, like we're both like big fucking gym weightlifter, bodybuilding, pound weights till the day we die kind of dudes. But it got to a point for me, and I don't know if you can relate to this, that I was so sad, angry, upset that going to the gym didn't even help my mental health anymore at that point. It was just a non-negotiable that I did because I knew I had to work out to stay in shape. So, I mean, did that seem similar with you?
Yeah, I mean, I could say that the gym was my saving grace. You know, it was my non-negotiable. You know, I do it every day. It's not even a thought. But had I not had that, I think things would have gotten a lot worse. You know, fortunately, it's my meditation for an hour and a half a day. But yeah, I wasn't a happy guy, and to be honest with you, I'm pretty self aware. I knew something was going on, but I wasn't sure the origination of it. And you know, even at the time, we're only going back like 3 years ago now when this is going on. There weren't nearly as many guys speaking about it. Not that there's that many now, but there weren't nearly as many that are speaking about it now then, even 3 years ago. So, you know, maybe if there was a podcast that your podcast or my podcast that I was able to watch, I would have realized quicker what was going on with me. But I really couldn't pinpoint it, to be honest with you. And, you know, I felt weak talking about it, my friends. I mean, the one great, beautiful thing that the medicine has given me is vulnerability. So I'm able to talk about things a lot more. But even that being said, like over the past week or so, I've kind of been a little down. My mom and I were estranged last year at the time of her death. And it was just kind of weighing on me over the past couple of weeks. And I just did a post about it yesterday, and my wife heard it today. She's like, "Why don't you come talk to me?" And you know, I kind of kept them to myself, and I've talking to her about it like periodically, but not over the past week or so, like telling her that it was really bothering me. So you know, again, even though I'm on this healing journey, it's not linear. You know, it just doesn't go like
Yeah,
that.
I
It kind
mean,
of ebbs and flows.
yeah, everything is ups and downs. And, you know, once again, if this is the first time listening to the Ballhard podcast, my trauma is not gone, okay? I still have PTSD. I still have major depressive disorder. I still have anxiety. Hell, you know, I was talking to Mike backstage before we got started, and if you guys don't know, I do acting. I have to talk my ass. Now, here I am. I'm having opportunities where I'm getting paid to be on TV and pretty much just fuck around. And I have to mentally talk myself into going to the job and going to set and getting in character of whatever I'm going to portray, because my mental health is still jacked up where I talk myself out of getting opportunities and doing things. And so the way I coach, you know, the way Mike coaches, the way we speak, how we talk about things, we're in a much better place. And the idea is you always want to stack more wins than losses. So if you can be 1% better every day and you have more wins, that's okay. We're still going to have bad days. Hell, as I told Mike, I got a ticket. Well, I got 2 tickets yesterday coming home, driving like a dum-dum, and that really upset me and put me in some kind of mood. But it's not the end of the world. It's going to be all right. And we're both kind of learning how we can be more vulnerable to the ones we love and be more of a giving person. And I want you guys to know that to be a tough guy, right, it's not about shutting up and keeping everybody pushed out of your life. The tougher men, the more resilient men, the better husbands, the better fathers, the better lovers are the ones that can effectively communicate with the people that are in their lives. And that can be your wife, that can be your parents, that can be, you know, your best friends. There's nothing more than I hate that, especially in the veteran first responder community, but just as a man as general, if you don't hear from your buddy, you don't fucking call him and say, "Hey, are you all right?" And you just, whatever reason, you're like, "Oh, I'm just too busy," or like, "He doesn't want to talk to me." No, reach out to those people, like harass them. Like, "Bro, I haven't heard from you in 2 weeks. Are you good?" And if they just say, "Yeah, I'm good," then, you know, you can take that for what it's worth and be like, "Are you sure?" "Yeah, I'm fine." "Okay. You know, I'm going to check on you in 2 weeks if I don't hear you." And just be present in people's lives to, you know, understand that we all have shit. We all deal with shit. Everybody has a tough life. It's not easy for literally anybody. Even the superstars, the richest people, they have issues too. We all have problems, but you're better together as a team with support. Is there anything on that realm you'd like to touch on?
No, I think you said it well. It's funny. I just read a post or a reel that my buddy Zach Ferguson did today. He's a former SEAL. He's on one of my podcasts a couple of times, and he made a post about us thinking that us being, these warriors, keeping everything inside and self isolating and handling everything on our own is strength. Nah, it's not strength. It's actually maybe a little bit of weakness
Mm.
that we're, I don't want to say insecure, but that we won't look to others to help us. Like life is not supposed to be meant to be lived isolated and
Right.
handling shit on your own.
Right.
You're supposed to be social with people around you and have interaction, and your friends and your family are there to support you. Just like if you were to reverse it, say we're talking about me, and you know I would easily accept helping others. So how come it's so hard for me to turn around and not let them do it for me? It's so tough for us to kind of, I don't want to say give up control, but to kind of just reach out. Just like I was going through it. My good friend reached out the other day. He's like, "How are you doing?" And I was just about to say, man, I've been thinking about my mom a lot. I was like, "I'm doing great, bro. Thank you." And I'm like, "What the fuck are you doing, man? Like, this is exactly what you say not to do, and you just did it yourself." So, my
It's
wife
hard.
said it.
It's hard,
It's
man.
like hypocritical. It
Yeah,
is.
it's hard to rewire your brain. And no, I think you hit on the nose. It is a weakness. It is insecurity. Like being a vulnerable man doesn't necessarily mean that you're in touch with your feminine side and you're putting on, pretty colors and you're painting your nails and you're, feeling nature and hugging tree. No, it just means like, babe, I'm not doing good today. Why are you not doing good? Well, I was thinking about the time, of a fond memory that I had with my mom, and I miss my mom because, I still didn't get to say goodbye to her, and I'm still dealing with that shit, and it hurts my feelings. And that's more of a flex than saying, "Oh, I'm fine. Don't worry about it. Leave me alone." And
Yeah.
even I mean, I'll give a real life example. Like I said, I got 2 tickets yesterday, driving like a dum dum, and I'm literally yelling at my wife on the phone, not because I'm mad at her, because I'm upset I got the tickets. And she said, "Well, you drive like a maniac, and you just finally got caught." And so I could have continued to yell at her. I said, "Look, I love you. I just want to get home. I'll talk to you later." I got home. I decompressed downstairs. Did what I had to do to try to just like relax from the day and from the tickets. And then this morning when I came home from the gym, I'm like, "Babe, I just want to tell you what you said. It really hurt my feelings, and this is why." And you know what she did? She's like, "Okay, babe, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said that." And that was just an open conversation. Me telling her like, "Look, babe, like this, when I'm going through something, please don't ridicule me, because when a man gets ridiculed, it really like takes his power away and makes him really feel like a piece of shit." And essentially that's what happened. And she kind of took a step back and was like, "Okay, yeah, you're right. I shouldn't have said that, and I'm sorry." And that's what vulnerability is. It's being able to have an
Yeah.
open conversation with somebody and not be worried about the end result, because at the end of the day, we don't want to have these tough conversations. We don't want to go through our trauma. We don't want to deal with the problems, but it's almost easier just to hit this shit head on than to say, "Oh, I'm not going to deal with it." Like if we're stacked up on a door and we're about to bust that fucking door open, we're not going to stop and think about it and be like, "Oh, well, what's going to happen?" No, you go full in, freaking clear that room and get the bad guy. It's the same thing with dealing with trauma. You got to hit that shit head on. Like you're more of a man when you deal with your shit, even if it makes you cry, even if it makes you fall on the floor, even if it makes you question who you are as a person. But overcoming that and having that peace of mind is like, I can't tell you, like, once again, I have some bad days, but bro, my peace of mind is my life, like my love for life now. It's a beautiful thing. And I'm sure, you feel the same way.
Yeah, and first of all, kudos to you for the communication, because it's a great way to handle it. Um, you fucked up. That you drive like a maniac. At that point in time, you don't have to be told. And I'm not, you know, um, you know, getting on your wife or anything like that. It's natural.
Yeah,
But
right.
don't tell them at that point. Tell them a little bit later. But you could have reacted with total anger, be like, "Are you fucking kidding me?" Da, 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 da. And then it would have been a full blown fight. Instead, you just went back when you calmed down later and you told her. And that's the way communicate. It's great communication. That's the way it should work. Um, I tell guys and girls, as far as like coming home, have a plan in place prior to things happening. So like if I come home, say I did a 3 to 11 tour and I come home and even if nothing happened, let's have a thing in place where the first half hour was on me. Let me decompress, let me chill, don't bring anything to me, hour, whatever you guys agree on prior to, and that's the way you handle it. And say you come home with something heavy that night, something hit you, like I had that 2-year-old drowning. Come home, and because when guys say that they don't bring it home, and I did it myself, I don't want to throw this on her. I don't want to be a part of this shit. Well, you know what? It's almost like you're leading two lives then, because she's got no idea. He's got no idea what you went through.
Right.
They see your reaction. They think you're a crazy person. But no, when you go and explain it, so maybe have a thing where you come home and Rob says, "Hey, baby, I had a tough one today." And for the rest of the night, they don't talk about it. If you have a thing where you get to spend the night in the man cave and then chill, but the next morning prior to your tour, you guys have to talk about it, then that's a great system as well. Anything where you guys are actually communicating with each other, so she knows where you're coming from, and you could kind of tell her, just take a step back, just let me kind of decompress, because man, a lot of this shit that we're seeing is not normal. Right. So we're trying to figure out how to process it ourselves.
Right.
When you come home, you're that husband, you're that dad, everyone wants you, but you can't just flip that switch on and off so easily sometimes, man. Just guys, I need time. We have our system in place already. So guys, tonight's mine. And then, tomorrow we'll speak about it, and I'll get back to, being dad or the hubs. And that's the way to do it, as opposed to, I'm not bringing this shit home to you. I can't tell you about it. No, because she's never going to know where you're coming from, what you went through. I hate the word trigger, but what's going to get you in that mood. You need to speak about it. They're not your spouse. Our spouses are not mind readers, nor should they be expected to. You're not. I'm not. I was never. So why should they be expected to do the same thing?
And I love that. And so, for the civilian community, but mainly for my first responders, like, we know firsthand, because we've been there, what you go through, whether you're a firefighter, a paramedic, a police officer, a first responder. And the reason why most marriages fail, the reason why most of us commit suicide, the reason why most of us have these feelings, get fired, go to alcohol, go to drugs, like cheat on our spouses, we don't have the emotional control. And Mike, you brought up like the perfect tip right there. Like, you have to realize that we know that your shift is stressful. From the time you put on that gun, or, you're wearing your scrubs, or you're jumping in that ambulance, or you're fighting that fire, it's stressful. And yes, every day, every night's not, going to war. But most of the time, it's stressful regardless of the shift. You have very few shifts where you're just sitting around doing nothing, whether it's a traffic ticket or pulling someone out of a building or whatever. So when you get home, you have to, first of all, stop your car, your unit, whatever, take some deep breaths, turn everything off, your radio, the car, and just sit there and calm down a little bit and just do some deep breath work, or if you have a mantra that works. And then you have to realize, before you open that door and walk through that threshold, you're going to be expected to be a husband or a mother or a father or whatever. And not being able to just pause for a second and, like Mike said, either say, look, kids, look, guys, I love you guys, just give me a minute to decompress. Give me 20 minutes, give me 30 minutes. If it's something bad, give me a day, but I promise I'll be there for you. I promise we'll talk about this. And then when the opportunity presents itself, before you go to shift that next day, because that's what we're doing, we're taking trauma on trauma on trauma. Babe, this is what happened. This is why I'm upset. I don't know how to process this right now, but I just wanted you to know what's going on. You have to have that open conversation. When you are with somebody in a relationship, you're a team, okay? Mm-hmm. It should be 50-50 across the board for everything. Cleaning the house, unless you have a agreement like, I'm going to manage the bills and you're going to clean the house. But the object is whatever you can do. So for me, I try to give my wife whatever I can. I try to outdo myself and do whatever I can for her. At the same time, she tries to outdo herself and give whatever she can for me. And what that creates is a lasting, loving relationship where we're each giving each other as much as we can, all of ourselves 100%, not looking for anything in return. And unfortunately, we go through these bad times and we lose our dignity, we lose our identity, we lose our self-worth, but then we don't do anything to figure out what works for us to heal. And if you're in a department and you think that they don't give a shit about your mental health and you need help, get help. Fuck that job. Because guess what? Your health, your healing, your humanity, your dignity, your marriage, your parents, your kids, all that shit is worth 100 times more than a paycheck. Because at the end of the day, you can get another job, or you can figure it out, or go to another department, or do what you have to do to be successful. So don't let the stigma of keeping your mouth shut keep you from living your life and advancing your life. Not your job, your life, because that's what's more important.
Yeah, 100%. And I think as we evolve as a people, the importance of us having to process these things is becoming more evident, and there's more weight being put on it. But, let's face it, man, we move at a leisurely pace, and, we're cavemen, man. So it's going to take some time for it to evolve and for this to become normality. But again, with us, guys like us speaking about it and, truly reaching out and having these warriors. Like I remember my third podcast episode, Zach Ferguson was on there, and in speaking about our individual journeys, he and I both cried in parts of our stories. And we got done. I hit record. I'm like, that was beautiful, brother. I'm like, someone's going to see you cry and say, if a Navy SEAL could cry, it's okay for me to do so. Exactly what happened to me when I was watching Eddie Penny. It took me a while to realize it, but subconsciously, that's exactly what it was. Him, this ultimate warrior, crying subconsciously gave me permission to do so. It's exactly what happened.
What are some things that you're doing in your daily life, or that you're finding that works for you as far as keeping you grounded and calm and happy? Like what kind of things besides the ayahuasca? Because obviously, there's probably still things you're doing right now at this point to keep you grounded and happy and healthy.
Yeah, I think a huge component is, number one, I'm retired, but I have a structure in place where, my day is structured. I don't want to say minute to minute or anything like that, but I have structure. I'm going to bed at the same time. I'm waking up at the same time. I eat very well. I train every day. Just going to the gym and doing some type of physical exercise, having a healthy diet is immeasurable as far as what it does for you. Additionally, my wife is incredible. She's made me such a better man at communication. So, I didn't really come to her over the past week what I was thinking about with my mom, but I could come to her with anything. So that is huge. I have friends that I could come to and speak to them about anything. I journal, maybe not as much as I should, but I'm probably good for minimum 3 days a week. Writing things down on paper and reading them back, or just writing them down and getting them out, just hits differently than thinking about them. I don't know why.
Definitely.
I don't know. It affects me differently than most guys I speak to. Yeah.
It's the intention. Everything we do. So, Mike gave some awesome examples, and everything you do, right? If you want to be better, if you want to be an optimal human, so to speak, first of all, it takes a complete, total approach. You can't just do one thing. But everything you do in life, you have to do with intent. So the thing with journaling is when you, like, say I want to make $10,000 a month, right, with my business. First of all, that goal has to be realistic. And when I write that down, I can't just say, I want to make $10,000. No, I have to say, I want to make $10,000, and I'm going to do it by doing X, Y, and Z. And I'm going to take this amount of time to do it, and it's going to take this amount of money to do it, and it's going to take, you have to be very specific and intentional in everything you do. But what happens when you do that, with it's your fitness, your nutrition, journaling, your marriage, whatever, and you get super deep in the details, you can reverse engineer that and actually create damn near anything you want in life. And that's what's crazy and scary, is the purposeful, specific intent. So one thing I teach with coaching is SMART goals. They have to be specific, they have to be measurable, they have to be obtainable, they have to be real. And by doing these things, you can be very successful. So a lot of people, I want to lose 30 pounds in 10 days. Well, that's not fucking realistic. So, if you say I want to lose 30 pounds in 5 months, that's very realistic. So when it comes to journaling and goal setting and all these things, you can actually get whatever you want out of it. You have to realize that in life, the things that matter, the things that are worth a damn, it takes time. Nothing happens overnight. This instant gratification bullshit is not going to work or serve a purpose. So keep that in mind when you guys are doing things. What is your definition of turning pain into progress?
What is my definition? I would say my definition is you turn pain into progress when you get sick enough of doing the same thing over and over, and you're getting that same result. Well, you're expecting a different one, which is a definition of insanity. And you finally hit that rock bottom, so to speak, where you're like, you know what, fucking enough is enough, man. I have to change what I'm doing. I have to change my approach. And again, like you say, you set goals. They have to be realistic. You can't set out on these journeys that are unreachable. You could achieve anything you want, but it's got to be realistic in the same respect. I said I want to enter the public speaking arena, so I sat down and I started speaking to people who were already there, and I, you know, realize that there are things I need to do to improve upon it and put myself in a position to be there. So I just signed up today, actually, for Jason Redman. He's a former SEAL. He's got a public speaking summit in August in Virginia. So I just signed myself and my wife up. She's a life coach as well. We're going to be attending that. So it's only going to make me better, give me more knowledge. It's going to put me in a position to network with people that I otherwise would not have met. Um, Again, you need to, like you said, reverse engineer. Look at where you want to be in whatever you're talking about, and then look back, figure out how you need to get there in incremental steps. It's not going to happen overnight. Most things you do worthwhile in this world are going to take time, energy, sometimes money, but figure out what they are. If you still want to proceed in that path, then all right, let's put shit on paper. And if you need to get a coach like yourself, do so. I have a coach myself, a guy named Taylor Kavanaugh, my mindset coach. And, we talk about what I want to achieve and how I'm going to go about doing so.
And guys, I want to highlight that. So even me, coaches need coaches too. And the best coaches are the ones that can admit that they need help and they're going to seek that help. I have a business mentor, a veteran who's a very successful guy at business, and he's been helping me scale up my business and just helping me fix the things that I didn't know how to fix or deal with. And, you have to look at the mentors, and even talking to Mike, I might reach out to him because he might know something in the personal development coaching that I know, and he might reach out to me because at the end of the day, we're going to network and we're going to help each other, and we're not going to gatekeep information. And I want to tell you this. If you listen to this episode, you're like, man, I want to reach out to Mike. Reach out to Mike. Like, when I promote these people and I do these podcasts, it's about your healing. It's not about me. Because at the end of the day, there's enough people that need help. There's enough people that need us to speak. There's enough people that need to hear our different perspectives. And so we're going to make sure that those people get to the right ones that fit. So, Mike, before we close out the show, where can they find you at currently?
The best way to get me is my Instagram, and that is the Resilient Warrior 5778. Additionally, the podcast is called The Resilient Warrior Nation on YouTube. We're probably going to be putting the episodes up on Spotify and audio only platforms, but as of right now, it's YouTube's the only accessible one. And really, if you need to hit me up, Instagram is definitely the best way to do so.
And both of you guys, so for guys like us, no matter how big we get, you DM us if you need help, we'll help you. And even if it's like, look, I want to preface this, and Mike, you can agree with me if you're on the same page. If you need mental health help, if like you're like really struggling with something, and that could be anything, because we've seen some horrible shit, we're not going to judge you. We'll try the best to give you advice that may help you. We may suggest, try therapy or medication or whatever, because these things in the mental health arena still work for some people, and I will never not say that I'm better than a psychiatrist or psychologist or medication. We just have different tools to help you. But we'll listen. We're not gonna say, hey, oh well, you need to buy my coaching program. No, we're gonna listen, and then we'll do our best to give you advice so you can start the healing process, no matter what that looks like.
Yeah, well said. I will never try to steer someone towards anything that I may be selling for whatever reason. I'm here to help, and if I can't do it, I will do my best to point you in the right direction and get it for you. Like you said, there are so many modalities. Just raise your hand, and you hit up a guy like myself or Rob, we're going to do our best to get you help because that's what it's all about. And again, like you said before, you're promoting me. That's another part of being vulnerable is if I think that Rob could do something better, in a second, I'll be like, hey, here's my boy Rob. Go to him. He's much better at XYZ than I am, and he is the man. So, unfortunately, there are so many people need help. There's never going to be a shortage of clients or people to help. That's what, I see some of these, guys mostly in the space and kind of the way they handle business blow me away. I am here to help any way I can. That's it. End of story. So it's not about, making money or hoarding people, on my own. Whatever I could do. If you guys need anything, I speak my lowest points. I had an opioid addiction, went to rehab in 2012. If you guys have a substance abuse issue, I could talk to you about that, man. Straight up, I've been there. I will never look down at anyone who's going through anything. You tell me you just buried 4 bodies, we may have a little bit of a problem. Kind of keep that to yourself. But short of that, you will never get anything but my most genuine help if you hit me up for anything.
Yeah, guys. If you're like a serial killer or like you really are cuckoo
Just
bananas,
keep that shit to yourself.
Please do not message us because we are not going to be involved in a police investigation.
Exactly.
Guys,
Taylor Cavanaugh is the guy to handle if you want to hit him up.
Guys, this has been another episode of the Battle Harder podcast. I'm sure Mike and I will network on some other things, and we'll probably each be on each other's podcast. All his links will be in the show notes on the YouTube version, so you can link up with him. Follow him on Instagram. We're both putting out content every day to help you be the best version of yourself. And guys, don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel as well. And always be fit for battle.
You've just heard another battle-tested conversation. Now it's time to take action. If this episode lit a fire in you, subscribe on Spotify, Apple, iHeart, or YouTube, so you never miss a moment that could change your life. Want to go deeper? Connect with Coach Rob at Battlefitted Brand. For coaching, gear, and tools to help you turn your pain into progress. Remember, life will test you, but you're built to battle harder. Until next time, stay locked in, stay ready, and keep showing up.